Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Ascendance Circle podcast. And today's guest is a friend of mine and a very special person. Her name is Saenz. Mia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Katie. It's great to be here.
I love having you. I absolutely love having you. The last time we talked on my show, we had a really great conversation, a lot of fun. So,
Yes, I adore you. Yeah,
sorry, what?
I adore you.
I adore you too. Oh my God, you're so adorable. And so I would love to get started today. Would you love to share with the audience a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I consider myself a researcher and love activist. And I'm looking at the camera and there's no camera. And I'm a love activist. And what I do is I deal with self-love, but it's really the depths of the emotional internal level. I wrote a piece today that said, that this whole world has this oxymoron thought that we are not loved. And so when you think about that, everything evolves around our emotions and back down to love. So that's the work I do.
I love it. And I love what you're creating right now in the world. Everyone, if you're not already aware, Mia actually she's putting together her second round of the book called Love Revolution. And it's absolutely beautiful witnessing this all come together. So I really appreciate having you on our show today, Mia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about securing the foundations for the inner child. And there are so many things I love about this conversation that we're about to have. Beginning with, why it's important. We have so much going on in the world where, if more people were in touch with their inner children, like how beautiful of a place would it be for us to be living in. So that alone would create some real magic. And so I want to kick that off with that concept today. So,
awesome.
yeah. So let's talk about this a little bit. So from your experience, and because this is one of your many jams, why is a secure foundation to the inner child so important for people all around the world to embrace?
It's really the level that we are as humans. Our foundation is emotions. It's who we are, whether we're happy, sad, mad, feisty, sultry, whatever, we're expressing these emotions. And as we grow older and through life, it really starts at our birth, actually. So we're born into this world and we don't understand our parents' language. They don't understand ours. There's miscommunication constantly. And I have to say it this way. Our parents weren't taught love, and so we have to reteach ourselves love, and bless their hearts, because generally they were very young, had not had children before, did not have a doctorate or practiced 20 or 30 years in child education. And so we're dealing with beautiful beings, of course, but they were not well equipped themselves. They had trauma that was not unresolved. They oftentimes came into relationships not knowing how to actually have it smooth, just wishing and desiring and throwing a penny in the pond like so many of us do, making wishes for fairy tales, when in reality, we have to look at ourselves and look at all these wounds, these scars that can be healed easily by shifting the energy out of it and bringing us to this emotionally developed state that we called emotional intelligence. And it's a beautiful place to be.
Indeed, it is. And I love what you shared there, talking about how, we basically have a lot of people in the world who, like you said, bless their hearts, are doing their best to love. But it's really hard to love from a place of not knowing how, maybe thinking, how, right? And coming from that perspective. And there's that age-old saying, right, that we can't give what we don't have. So we got a lot of people running around, maybe just not knowing and trying to love and care from a space that isn't fully informed yet. And so that can pose some real problems.
It's so interesting because society really hasn't even started talking about this until the 1980s outward. And so the shift started probably about 20 or 30 years before that, as it always does with the revolutionary people, Martin Luther King, yes, with equality, and John Lennon with his beautiful verbiage of love, and and poetry and stirring the souls. So I feel like the work we're doing today, the ones who are shifting the EQ, the emotional intelligence, the ones who are reaching the inner child, the scars, the wounds that don't have to exist, we are the ones in that stage. We are the love activists. We are the ones that are going and sitting across from people and working with them and taking them along a journey. Or even so far as it was a few months back, there was an innocent man. Nobody believed he was innocent until they started doing the research. He was on death row in Atlanta. And so it was about getting these petitions signed, about seeing that the facts didn't line up. This man didn't have to die. He didn't commit this murder. And so it goes as deep as you wanted or as light as you wanted. But if we all take something that we're passionate about and moving it forward in the world to support the world that we love, what we love out into the world that we love or supposedly want to love, our world would be different. It would be completely different. And that's one reason why I've stepped into this position of, my company's name is Women Making Miracles, because we can literally shift and make miracles. Somebody wrote, this is interesting, somebody wrote on a post on Facebook, a man, "I don't believe in miracles." and I said, interesting, tell me more. He didn't. But the concept about that is miracles are not just ordained by the Catholic Church. Miracles happen every day. They happen every moment. They happen in the hearts of humanity. They happen across the country. One person can spur another person and another person and another person. This is a momentous experience that we do. If we are beaten down like the ones that we come in to support in order to shift their lives, or like we once were for so many of us, it's about removing that stress of energy, that density, that heaviness. And on the other side is lightness and fun and curiosity. And that produces love. And so as this becomes that momentous rhythm that I was talking about, we're going over like a giant wave that's trying to wash and support humanity. Not that anyone's dirty. I don't mean wash like we're dirty, but wash clean our sadness and our sorrow that doesn't even have to be there.
Yeah, that's really powerful. You're talking just now about removing the density, and actually what was coming up for me where you're talking about women making miracles and how they're actually happening all the time. And that's so interesting. And there are, many teachers out there sharing with us that miracles are normal. Miracles are supposed to be our regular state of being. It's just that we as human beings, for whatever reason, had just, a long time ago gotten really disconnected from that fact. And so now we treat these miracles like they're supposed to be a rarity. We kind of put them on a pedestal because we've forgotten that they're just supposed to, it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be that easy. So I think that's really powerful. So what you're talking about, removing the density, removing the things that aren't serving, that's right. In fact, what we need to be doing to experience those miracles is to just move the gunk.
Exactly. And those of us in the field working it, because it is a new field. In the 80s, they started talking about it even on Oprah. It was the first time the word self-love came out into mainstream media. And so from then, people would throw up their hands to hide behind it and thinking it was some kind of a weird thing. Just like in the 70s, when people would talk about yoga and kefir and things like that and meditation, the world was like, what the heck are you talking about? Almost like holding up a cross, like, Satan, get behind me, kind of thing. And so all it is new information that people have never thought of. Right. New information that people have never thought of brings up what? Fear. Fear is the unknown. It's related to death. I can tell you that meditating, doing yoga, and having kefir is not going to kill you at all. It may kill the ones who fear it, but it's not going to kill the ones who are doing it. Right. So it's all brought by fear. And how do we remove that? It's literally looking at our belief system, our foundational system, where we come from. And that is where we go in and heal those emotions that stir us crazy, that make us go nuts. As a little example, why I brought up the meditation kefir and and yoga is,
Which we love.
I have an aunt. So I was raised metaphysical. I'm a third generation. And mine was very much like a strict, stringent kind of sect of metaphysics. It was the foundation of all the other metaphysical gathering religions, if you want to call it religious, that come from them. And so to see my aunt break away and do these things that were not maybe as godlike as, in a public forum praying and, the whole God thing. So there was still religion attached to the metaphysics there.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see that, I grew up thinking that that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to pop out into who I was. Why? Because one of the things I had to work against was, and I was TMing, transcendental meditation since I was 7. I didn't know it. When we would have to sit at the end of the hallway in the kids section of the house, in the bedroom corridors, and we would meet in the center of the hallway there, all 4 of us, and we had to read the Bible and the science and health, and we had to pray, and we had to do this every single day, our practice. As I was praying, I would be like, I'm done, me and God, we're cool, And so I would end up meditating. And I didn't even realize that until I was older. So we have to go through so many fears that people place on us, wrongly so, to get to the real jewels. Meditation and yoga, I call it stretching yoga because, there's not a certain form that I follow in particular. And eating healthy. These are all things beautiful for the human body, right? That once we were told, oh my gosh, they're scary. Why? Because they're the unknown. Right. Fear within the unknown.
Yep. Hey, they don't talk about yoga in the Bible. Must be wrong. I mean, not to make too much light of it, but that's a real thing. Yeah. That's a real thing. People are afraid because it's different from maybe what they've understood before, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but it can be a really beautiful way to connect with the divine.
And yoga has been around almost as long as mankind, It's founded in India. Jesus, in those 3 years of him being missing from up till 30 or 33 or whatever it was, he was in India studying with Buddha, under Buddha. So you don't think he wasn't doing yoga? And yoga is different than what the Western yoga is. Yoga is that divinity that we do, that breath work, that focused intention. You're holding poses because you're holding your breath. You're holding the stretch. You're holding the pose. Why? You're having that enlightenment go through your body. Not because in today's modern world, which is still good, we want to stretch to have healthier bodies because we're really only as old as our spines. We want to keep her healthy. So, it's the thoughts have advanced, or in a different way, not advanced, but they've come to a different spot in the Western world. But you're right. The foundation of yoga is so ancient that it's not in the Bible. Why? Because again, fear, I'm sure, because it was around longer before that. So it's interesting to see where these beliefs get at our core essence of who we are, that try to stop us from evolving, try to stop us from being happy and feeling safe.
Yeah.
Identity.
It's so interesting when you look at why, if you ask somebody, like, why are you afraid of that? There may not even be like an answer. And the answer really is that there's a programming there. I can remember several years ago when an ex-boyfriend of mine brought up some metaphysical stuff in our relationship, and it legitimately, and I was on a totally different level of consciousness, and I just didn't accept it. It really freaked me out. I was like, what is this? And of course, now we talk about this stuff all the time. We're like obsessed with it. But back in the day, I was like, I don't understand what this is. And it's kind of scary, is what I thought, but no reason for that. There's just no reason other than like, oh, that's different. I don't understand it. Like, eek, right? And that's so many people.
And it's crazy because the fear of something like that, now, if we have a lighter spirit and we're more accepting to at least examine something, we're not going to throw the wall up, the door closed, whatever the saying would be. Right. But I shouldn't say lost because I'm still friends with them today, but I had dated quite a few guys in between both my husbands, but 2 of my boyfriends that I really loved and still love today in their own way couldn't understand my spiritual essence, right?
Mm.
And so when you think about 10 years ago, that's when I was dating back then.
Yeah.
Now I see that they're dating girls that are just like me and loving it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's a transformation in their own space. Same with my oldest son, my kids are in their 20s. And so my oldest son is with a woman who's could be kind of like me. I mean, she's a little bit more hippie-ish and more gypsy-ish than me, but we have the same foundation. And so the joy and beauty that he now can see in me is amazing. Like you can see in your past boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and my
Yeah.
old friends can see back in me. So it's an opening, whether we're the conduit for change for them
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. It's painful,
Yeah.
but it gets to the point that it's like, I've exposed you to something great.
Yes, yes. And, to that point too, when I look back at my former self, Katie, like 1.0 or whatever you want to call it, I was in a lot of pain anyway.
Yeah.
And in fact, learning about those things was probably the least painful thing for me. What it was actually more painful was how stuck I was at that time. It was a very different part of my life, right? So, and my rejection of those things was a reflection of what was really going on inside of me, which was so interesting. I can see all of that, everything in hindsight, right? But back
Yeah.
then it was just such a different story for me. So I can totally relate to that. So anyway, looping this back to getting in touch with our inner child. So we're talking about, removing all of these layers, these things, the density that doesn't serve us, right? And so how does removing these things get us back in touch with our inner child?
Wow. It does wonders. So our inner child, a lot of people look at it in different aspects because, as I was saying, in psychology and in metaphysics and in Oprah Winfrey, and all of this evolving along the way, um, everyone has, and they have the right to have their own conception
Mm-hmm.
of what things are. I always tell
Yeah.
people, listen to your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And if you absolutely are against it, then be against it lovingly,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I I don't look at the inner child as being a dolly or anything that. I look at the inner child as actually me, the younger Mia, the
Yeah.
younger self that was wounded and needed help. So one of the main ways I work with people is through a guided meditation process. It's on my album, but it's a guided meditation process called the Inner Child Process, and it goes back to the same name of everything, the Secured Foundations for the Inner Child. So I mean, there's other things on that album, but it's interesting because when I take you, I relax you and I take you down in hypnotherapy and I bring you into your own sacred place. You have this one space that I guide you through for you to create. And so in that space, there's a connection and a storyline, a timeline. I say you need to work between 3 and 4 on up to 17 and 18. And as an adult, you can still use this process in your adult life for your trauma, for
Yeah.
your release of your trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the example. You go in, you see this beautiful little being of who you are, whether it's a man doing it or a woman do it. So since I'm a woman, I'm going to speak as I'm talking to my little girl. And so I have you get down and, on your knees or pull her into your lap on a chair, and you're hugging and loving her. Now, surprisingly enough, some people can't do that. They cannot touch themselves because the pain is so strong, or they break down and cry. I did too. We break down and cry because we can actually see the innocence of who we were and
Yeah.
the beautiful love. And so as we go through the trauma or storylines that come up, situations, whatever you want to call the history, we're breaking the trauma by recognizing through the little child's eyes as we're supporting her throughout what's happening. She's recognizing the growth and the evolution of who she is as a grown-up. That is the biggest breaker of all energy blocks there is, because when we can see, oh, I'm fine, that's where the energy breaks. And so on these storylines of abuse that people have, of being pimped out at age 5 or 6 or 7, whatever the trauma is, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, it's all valid because it's all happened to that individual. There are
Right.
even situations where I've had clients who have had lies told to them by the mother or the father. And so they grew up living that lie, thinking that that lie was a part of their existence. Guess what? It was. It was because it was in the consciousness, in the, and the subconsciousness. And so if it's in our psyche, it's created in ourselves. And so words have so much power and meaning. So when we go in and shift that energy and love that little being, I'm talking about loving her like it was your only child. Love, some people who don't have children say, well, how do I love something that deeply? Well, think about your kitten or your puppy that you had. There was so much protection and love and yes, and gentleness there that it just, we understand the depths of love when it's something that we've nurtured from babyhood on up. So when we go in and do this on a storyline of breaking these stories wide open, we're cracking the essence of what it is. The stress, the pain, the heaviness, everything dissipates out. That inner being understands that they are not that experience is not them and they are not that experience. So on a metaphysical sense, if you want to take it there, because we're talking about experiences and what it looks like, it's an illusion being cracked wide open. The illusion that it even happened, it happened to the physical essence, but it didn't change who they were. It didn't kill them. It didn't remove them out of life. They have the choice, a transformational choice, to move forward and to get out of it. And this is said by someone, those who are listening now, in the future, whenever, you have to understand that I'm not saying this as a trite experience, as some cliche. This is the depths of my work. Why? Because this is the depths of who I am. I had to heal myself and go through this journey to understand, not just to support people, but to heal myself so I was fully functioning, because I wasn't fully functioning, apparently, And so when I say that, I've seen the worst, as you may end up reading in some of my literature. I've seen the worst, but there's not the energy around it. When you read my stuff compared to maybe someone else's, you'll see that someone else is still hysterical. They're cursing. They're in a victim mode. I represent stuff in the state of not emotionless, but we take the emotion out of it. Why? Because it's not triggering to us. And the reader doesn't have to hear that. They just need the facts, ma'am. That's all we need are the facts. And so literally we can go in and we can reestablish who we are and a deeper connection. So what's happening is you have the adult mature you that's right there supporting, and then you're raising this beautiful being of who you are, and it grows the emotional intelligence level. That's the fastest way I've discovered how to grow the emotional intelligence, is by raising that, breaking those lies, those falsehoods apart and destroying them, so that I'm not going to have you like blow up your storyline, or that works for some people. See, there's methods that work for some and doesn't work for others. Why? Because we're so uniquely different.
Everyone's different.
We all have our own soul journey and our soul people to follow. And so what works for one may not work for the other, or it might, but it needs to be tweaked. So it's very fascinating work to be able to go in and absolutely cherish and love one who you're working with, and then also when you're doing the work for yourself as the individual, to be gentle, to be still, to allow the emotions to rush through there if they need to. If you need to feel that whoosh of relief, great. If you need to feel your tears, honey, you need to feel your tears. If you need to journal about it, you better journal about it, because that's the fastest way to release. It's all about how that person dealing with this can move to the other side, not as a racehorse, as speed, but with efficiency and ease.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I really love what you shared there, Mia. So, and that is a real testament to your work as well. Guys, if you're not already familiar with Mia's work, I mean, what I love about what you do is that your work recognizes the differences in people and that everyone needs something different. Like, you've been doing this for quite some time, and you have a number of different ways of working with people to break them through. And that's what's really beautiful about what you do. One of the many things that's beautiful about what you do is that it really does acknowledge that everyone's got a different need, and you've got a tool usually for that thing. So that's really powerful. And I love what you said also about the illusion being cracked wide open. And for those of you guys listening too, when you just started talking about the inner child meditation, my cat came right up to me and sat on my lap. It's almost like she was feeling the vibes from Nia.
I
And
can hear her purring.
you can hear her. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, you guys could hear her purring.
It's great.
She was trying to get in on that inner child meditation, I think. So now she's leaving.
She's like, okay, we're through.
She's like, all right, we're done here. That's too funny. I love how animals always pick up on those vibes. It's so beautiful. Yeah. You were talking about the illusion being cracked wide open. And that is such a powerful element of what happens here, because what's possible once the illusion has been cracked wide open? What's possible for the individual when that happens?
It's incredible, because when they're not trapped in that story, they can live life fuller. They can, and if you're on the spiritual level, you can manifest at a blink of an eye. Why? Yeah. Because you've lifted your vibration up. When we do this work, we change ourselves on a structural level. And so vibrationally, we're different. Love and God vibrate on the same level. Love is God. Love is creator, source, whatever you want to call it. It's the highest vibration there is. So to live in the state of love is to live in the state of grace. And that means in the state of grace, if you think about royalty or anything, the state of grace is having things at your fingertips, having with ease. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have servants and slaves or whatever, but it does mean that you have the ability to have niceness, to have luxury. It's not, there are religious people who feel that, and some spiritual people who feel they cannot go and have beautiful things in life. Why? Because they need to leave a quiet, desolate life. There are moments within our life, and I say moments because it could be 6 months, a year, 10 years for some, whoever, whatever. But those are just moments in the expansion of life. And in those moments, we may give up things. We give up things so that not our soul is perfect. Our soul is beautiful. Our soul is here to show us the way, but we're not always listening. But our soul does want to experience life on earth. Why? Because in its soul essence, it will remember what an orange looks like and smells like, but it can't define the exact flavor and what it does to your tongue or the essence of your nose and how it flows through your human body until you are here on earth and smell it. It's the same thing with sex. Literally, we can remember in our soulful state what that's like, but it's very clinical, right? It's not in the essence of sensualism, which also is a high vibration. And so we're here to experience things, and most of humanity doesn't allow their soul to play. This is our playground. This is our learning place. Soul knows all, but in the human realm, it's like, yeah, I want to experience that. Let's work out this situation. I realized from all the spiritual work that I've done, and having my Egyptian astrology done and studying that for 16 weeks of who I am, and all this stuff to see more into me as a human. I guess that's intimacy, isn't it? See more into me as a human. Yeah. Literally, the foundations of the numerology and the astrology and all that point that I'm a love activist, literally, that the mission is love and that it's a vast mission on earth. Yes. And so I started later in the game because many reasons. I can't even tell you why. It's my perfect timing, when I started,
You're right on time.
10, 11 years ago. And so the thing is that we're all in our right timing, our right alignment, and we need to be easier and gentler on ourselves, because when we restrict, what does that do? It tightens up. It's a contraction, and love can't flow. And so as we're gentle, information spreads through us, because we believe that our mental state is connected to our feelings until we understand that they're actually two different things. we're so complex and so beautiful that as humans, and with spirit, it is so amazing, literally. It's glorious.
That is so cool. Well, one of the things that you had shared is that we're here to experience, and this is our playground. And that's such a perfect tie back to the inner child, because it's like you said, that's like who we are in our core, at our essence. And so what's not to be amazing about connecting with your inner child, because that's exactly what been here to do. And I think what happens sometimes is we just get disconnected from it. We get distracted. We get distracted by the things that come up in life that maybe aren't that, or maybe are distractions from that. Like, oh, you gotta, pay your bills and get a job, and, do things you don't like for 8 hours a day and forget your joy. You know what I mean? So many people are going through this. And it's just so interesting how powerful this work is. And how when we really do connect to things you're talking about, like the taste of an orange, that it's just way easier to define if you just experience it than if you're not in this human experience, right? So that's really, really beautiful.
Can I bring up
Yeah.
something about consciousness? So
Yes.
there's other conscious beings out in the universe, the galaxies and beyond. And we don't talk about that as a society unless you're in the ufology stuff or this or that, right? So as a little girl, I was well aware, and I used to say to my grandma, now maybe I heard her tell me this, she was a beautiful metaphysical practitioner. And I remember saying, maybe I said it to other people, and I think she and I had a conversation when I was little, that it would be arrogant, because look at the words, I've always used big words, but it would be arrogant for us to assume that we're the only beings on the,
Right.
that this planet is the only one that's occupied.
True.
And when you look at that, it sort of sets us different, right? And so conscious beings, as we've seen in sci-fi, which really aren't so far off in many aspects, conscious beings don't do the earth stuff. Why? Because they've evolved, because we are conscious beings when we're not on earth, more, we are at a level or a stage where it's not necessary for half the stuff that we do. So that's why this is our playground. That's why this is our reward. And so if we think about the curiosity, the fun, the excitement, that's how manifestation also moves very fluid in life. When you have curiosity about life, when you have curiosity about something, when you have curiosity about your clients, that brings so much lightness, so much different energy than, oh my God, I just came off of an 8-hour shift and maybe I can pick up somebody on the side, that's a whole different realm than playing in the energy of curiosity and fun and movement.
That's wonderful, Mia. And I just want to mention too, you're the second person that the third person that I've had conversation with about beings in the last 12 or 16 hours. I'm not kidding. So it's really timely.
This is my world, I live in a couple of different worlds. One of them is Earth, and then one of them is with the spiritual people over here who talk about this stuff, and then one's with other spiritual people who talk about that stuff, and it's all beautiful,
I love it. I think you're amazing. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's an important point as well. This is our playground. This is our curiosity. This is where we get to explore and experiment and hopefully have a good time with that.
And why would life be fun without that, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess you could bring it back to the inner child, because it's healing the child within us. When I had my healing into becoming a coach in this work, being dedicated, was 12 years ago. I had been sick for a long time. I mean, in a wheelchair, dying, literally got the death sentence from the doctors. And there was no curiosity. There was no fun. There was no nothing. But when I had a vision, in 2008, that my life could be different, and I allowed my saboteur to shut the hell up because it was my birthday and I wanted to explore this. I felt like it was a moment with God where I heard, you've been unhappy your whole life. What would it be like to be happy? So in that moment, I was examining what that would be like. And then I made such a big vision. It's one of the processes that's in my in the Mirror book, that's on my site for people to download, things like that. it was really interesting because the expansion of my awareness was so big. I
Mm-hmm.
believed I could create, and I actually did create a life that I wasn't dying in 2 years. I didn't die in 2 years, but I realized, okay, so I have this desire. How can I keep it propelled moving forward? And
Yeah.
then I was brought back to my childhood when people would say that were not in my family, would say, wow, you just have such beautiful, sparkly eyes, or you're so passionate, you're so
Mm-hmm.
alive, don't ever lose that. And I thought, what is passion? Passion is what children do. They roll through anthills, through swampy, muddy waters because they're having a heyday of a time. That's what passion is about, that curiosity, that playfulness. So I wanted to show the full connection of all of this in life, that
Yeah.
the curiosity of humans and or things on our planet, being curious and enjoying life,
Mhm.
it's our divine right, literally,
Mhm.
as a human. If we took away the money, we
Mhm.
took away the scarcity, we took away all the fears, we would be having the best, glorious time ever,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So, as we develop and condition ourselves, because our subconscious holds information. I used to be afraid of the word as a child. I mean, I literally would rock in my boots going, there is a subconscious within me that's evil, you know? I
Oh,
didn't know what it meant. I just had
yeah.
heard things. And so I'm like, there's this dark thing. So as I've grown in this work, subconscious is literally just the processing center to support our humanness of
Yeah.
information. So we have to lay in new patterns. That's why for so many people, affirmations work and mantras, especially done in the right way. We're laying in new patterns. I love you. You've got this. It's
Mhm.
okay. Be gentle, honey. You're going to do it the next time. These are ways that I teach my clients to speak to themselves. These are ways in which I spoke to myself to change the storyline, literally, of when I was in between my marriages and dating and stuff. I learned how to drink for the first time in my life. I never drank until I was 45 years old. And so going out and drinking was fun. I turned into
Yeah.
a party girl. And
Mhm.
so I would yell at myself at night when I'd get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, feeling sick and irritated and bloated and knowing I had to get out, work out the next day. And
Mhm.
so it went from a conversation of anger into a conversation of compassion,
Yeah.
into reaching out and it's okay, let's do better, to we're doing better, to we've got this, to the conversation doesn't even exist, the drinking like that doesn't even exist, because I changed who I was. We all change and develop who we are by choice, not
Mhm.
by happenstance, literally by choice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, what I really love about what you just shared is it's taking self-love and it's kind of turning it into or evolving it into like radical self-acceptance. You know, really acknowledging that we are beings on this planet. We're having a human experience and we are simply explorers, right? Making mistakes and growing in the process.
Mhm.
And so to be really gentle with ourselves is important. And this can be trained too, you know, by the way, like, and I have this tendency where I sometimes talk to myself, and someone caught me the other day. I was having an unself-loving thought. And what I do is I actually have this bounce back thought that's like, I love you, Katie. It's like, literally I've trained myself to like squash those
Mhm.
thoughts, right? And it's something I've been doing for years, and I don't even like realize I'm doing it until I say it out loud. Someone heard me and they're just kind of like
Like, you're crazy, girl, right?
right, they thought I was nuts, but I was like, you have no, but I'm like thinking that person's judging me, but they have no idea how much this is helping me right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Squash a
Mm-hmm.
thought that could potentially like wreck the rest of my day or the rest of my hour, whatever I'm doing. And so that's really, really key. And I also want to thank you for sharing your story about your healing journey
Thank you.
and that return to your inner child and that return to that piece of you that was sparkly and authentic and fun and that party animal, and that question that was, what would it be like to be happy? And you know, I have my own experience with a similar, you know, similar topic, not necessarily like a physical health issue, but a mental health issue where, you know, years ago I was really depressed and had, you know, overwhelming suicidal thoughts. I really, really did not like myself. I didn't like my life. I was disconnected from my source of happiness. And I had no idea that was happening. I thought it was just something that was wrong with me. I had no idea that it was just that I was severely disconnected from my happiness, my joy, my authenticity, my femininity, all of those things. And when I realized, hey, Katie, this is actually what's been making you miserable. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. That moment was extremely powerful. And that's when I knew I had to go into the work and to share it with other people. So that can be a
is powerful.
transformative.
That can be
Right.
life-changing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
In that moment of that recognition was your huge transformational breakthrough.
Yeah.
I have shivers in my body because I can't even tell you how that moment was like the lightning bolt of creation for you. Yes, you existed, you were here. But in that moment, things became clear. You talked about the numbness and all that. We all have that. That's human, and that's our disconnect. We have body dysmorphia and self-love or interior dialogue dysmorphic senses about ourselves. So what you did in that moment was you broke right through and you recognized it doesn't have to be like this. Yeah. And that is the battle right there, because on the other side of that moment is the feel-good stuff that comes through, the recognitions, the everything that brings you up and lifts you up.
Yeah, on the other side of that moment is when my real life began. And I don't know if you felt a similar sensation of when you move through your healing journey, but yeah, I mean, it's just really powerful, isn't it? So
it's very powerful.
Thank you. I acknowledge you for all the work that you've done in the world, both for yourself and also for all the people that you've served. I mean, and are serving now. It's just incredible. I'm so honored that you're my colleague and I get to call you a friend.
Yes, I love it.
Yes. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience as far as content? And I know that you have some things that you want to share with the audience as far as what you're creating too. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess what I want to share with the audience before we leave, I'll say after the content. Nice. So if you go to womenmakingmiracles.com, there's a treasure trove there for you, and things are added all the time. So the Mirror Mirror book, you can also find that on Amazon, on Kindle, but sometimes it's free, or you can get it in the treasure trove. And same with Love Revolution. We have it in Kindle. Sometimes they let us give it for free. And so we always rotate it out as much as possible. So look for that stuff. I have a magazine called Bella Mia Magazine that's been in hiatus for a couple years. Love it. So that the Love Revolution series could be developed and brought out, because there's only one of me. And so the magazine is coming back out this summer. Just a lot of great stuff. It's just about serving mankind, and we all grow into a space of awareness, and maybe this is what I want the world to know. We all grow into a space of awareness, so be gentle with yourself, because not everybody can match us at the moment. Not everybody can be there. And if we look at somebody else's journey as their journey and make it as sacred as we make our own journey, that's when a lot of the hurt and anger and fear and stress will leave the whole situation, because that other person is working on their own journey and have their own issues, just like we have or had. And so we just need to love them more.
Yes. Chills, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. This was lovely to be on. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I love having you.
Great
always.
Program.
Thank you so much, Mia. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.